It's my dance, make it hurt.
Welcome to the Knowledge Booth of Franklin OK. We've been looking at Agenda 2063, the blueprint for transformative Africa into a global powerhouse. And we started looking at the 7 aspirations of the Agenda 2063. We have already looked at integrated Africa, prosperous Africa. And one of the third one I want us to look at, and I still have my colleague Boris Ngala from Cameroon with me. And Boris, I want us to look at, democratic Africa, which is a pillar for the 7 aspirations that the AU is looking at Africa having the peace and the democracy that respects the rule of law, democracy that respects justice, democracy that respects the people's rights. And do you think that looking at what is happening on our continent, do you think that by 2063 we can achieve a democratic African state?
It's an uphill task, to be honest. It's an uphill task, but it is possible to achieve a democratic Africa. Because when you look at democracy, we're talking about social equality, we're talking about human rights. It's almost an uphill task, but I believe that, somewhat we can achieve it. We can achieve it. Considering, first of all, let's go. Congratulations, by the way, to Ghana. Yes. For the recent election. That the transition.
Amazing.
Peaceful,
smooth.
We
transition.
have not seen something like that.
Amazing.
In a very long time. So you see, these are threats. These are things that these are signs that Africa is not the same. Africa is evolving.
Yeah.
Africa is evolving. As the saying goes, if you don't evolve, you dissolve. You see, Africa is evolving. So we are not dissolving, we are evolving. We are taking one step at a time. We are evolving. And every step of progress that we make deserve applause, deserve accolades. And Ghana had recently shown that democracy is possible in the recent election. So congratulations again.
Thank you.
I believe that many other African countries will emulate the same, and they will become even a more democratic Africa, so to speak.
If you look at democracy, that was also one of the imports of colonization.
Exactly.
And looking at the structure of Africa, do you think that, we were doing traditional kinship and chieftaincy systems and all that, do you think that democracy is really good for Africa, or we should look at other forms of leadership? Other forms of governance?
Let's go back memory lane. Let's go back in our kingship states, in our kingdoms and all of that. Was Africa self-sustained? Was Africa self-sufficient? Was Africa peaceful?
Yeah.
Was Africa peaceful? Was Africa united? Was Africa united? Was Africa prosperous? All of these questions, the answer is yes, Africa was peaceful. Yes, Africa was prosperous. Yes, the kingdoms were ruled by kings. And yes, we were already we were accustomed to our traditions and custom, which of course the colonial masters came and ripped us off it. They ripped us off it does not mean that, our heritage was taken away completely, because it was already a culture in us, being ruled by a king or a kingdom and all of that. So that has been in us from one generation to the other. We cannot erase that, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So dictatorship, some form of dictatorship is important. It's important because that has been part of our culture. You cannot erase that.
Yeah.
Africans will toe the line when you are tough.
Yes.
Africans are tough people. We are not jellyfish. We are not boneless fish. we are tough people. We need tough leadership. We need leadership with vigor and strength. We need people that will say, this is the way to go. And we have examples of them. Look at Paul Kagame of Rwanda. Look at Paul Kagame of Rwanda when he spoke at, I was privileged to be in a meeting where he was speaking at the African Development Bank annual meetings in Kenya. He blew my mind away. I was like, what? This is quality. When he speaks, you can see quality emanating from a human being in the person of a commander-in-chief, the president of Rwanda. The same thing happens in Burkina Faso. I was privileged to be in the same room where, Ibrahim, His Excellency President Ibrahim Traore was speaking. An amazing leader, an amazing, eloquent leader that is leading its country from dependency to sustainability, cutting off all the external aid from the foreign aid and all of that. He says Burkina Faso will take the lead in agriculture. They will take the lead in entrepreneurship. You see, you go there, you see what they're doing. It's practical. We need people who are leaders who knows how to supervise. Because dictators have so many things in common. They are good supervisors. They give, of course, when they give a task, they will go down to the field to ensure that it is executed, to ensure that it is well done. That is the rule of a dictator. That is the rule of a leader. And it's not a bad thing to be a dictator.
Yeah. So that does not mean that Africa is looking at for leaders who are going to displace the people with wars and genocide and making sure that people are killed. It leads to the next pillar. So these dynamics within the system are all to be able to create some comprehensive environment for Africa to thrive. Within that, it leads to the next pillar, which looks at a peaceful Africa.
Yes.
Okay. So whilst we are looking at a democratic Africa, where sometimes democracy comes as a result of dictatorship. There are a number of democratic countries like Ghana. We came through from that. We emerged from the ashes of dictatorship, and we go through. So as we go through all these things, we are looking at how do we maintain the peace so we can do full trade as Africans. We can trade among ourselves. We can be able to have investors coming into Africa because the continent is peaceful. Okay, a number of African countries are not getting the needed resources because there's no peace. So how do we ensure that this pillar really be achieved by 2063? We have about how many years now? We are in 2025, and by 2030 we have 33 more. So about averaging 35 years more to achieve this. Can we have this?
Yes, we can. Yes, we can. But the big question that everyone should answer here is, have you ever seen an hungry man peaceful?
Yeah.
Do you see someone who is hungry peaceful? No. Unfortunately, there's an adage that goes thus. A hungry man is an angry man. Again, a hungry man is an angry man. When Africa cultivates, when Africa feeds itself, when Africa is not hungry, we can start talking peace.
Yeah.
We can start living in peace. We can start, that is the reason why all the other governments around should encourage or do what we call encourage the youth to get into farming. So to speak, my own president, His Excellency President Paul Biya, in all his speech has always been encouraging, the youth to go to the farm, the youth will not go to the farm if you don't make it sexy. The youth want to go to the farm in their Fendi, Gucci, Prada, in fact, in a Mercedes Benz as a farmer. If we don't make farming sexy and attractive, no youth will go to the farm. That is the point. That is the reason why we're saying that government should create initiatives and people, organizations, powerful organizations like the World Bank, African Development Bank, Islamic, Bank. All of these banks that are doing amazing developmental projects, carrying on developmental projects on the continent, we appreciate all what you're doing. But I think there is a more need. And the need here is, can Africa achieve some sort of a level of mechanized agriculture where Africa can feed itself? We don't have to cry when Ukraine shut down its borders because of wheat. We can grow our own wheat. We don't have to cry because maybe India is not supplying us rice. We can grow our own rice. In Nigeria, there's a lot of land for rice. In Cameroon, there's a lot of... It will shock you to know that Cameroon used to have one of the biggest rice mills in Africa. The biggest in Central African region, that was shut down due to political quagmire. And all I can say is we need to go back, we need to revisit, we need to start feeding ourselves.
Yeah. So, my dear friend, you can see that all the things that can create the Africa that we want have all been carefully enshrined in the Agenda 2063. We just want to open our eyes to these pillars and to understand where Africa is going. Probably a lot of us do not even know that these are the things, the policies that have been put there as a blueprint to transform Africa into a global powerhouse. We believe that in the next 35 years, if we all put our hands on deck, we can have the Africa we want. I want to thank you for joining us in this podcast. See us as we look at the next pillars of the aspirations of Agenda 2063. Thank you.